call the March 16th Mississippi County Quorum Court to order. And I apologize for just now getting here, but if Justice Burge, would you give our invocation for us, please?
Just give it up to you.
Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us, Father, and we thank you for the lessons of the day. We pray, Heavenly Father, as we move into our discussion today, that you will guide our thoughts, that we will always be mindful, Heavenly Father, that we're here to serve the citizens of Mississippi County. We pray, Heavenly Father, for those that are on the front line of battling this problem that's facing our nation and our world. We pray that you'll watch over them, that you will lead them and guide them in the work that they do. We'll give you all the praise. We ask in Christ's name.
Amen. Janice, would you call a roll, please?
Yes, sir. Justice Ash. Here. Justice Culture. Justice Burge.
Here.
Justice Clay.
Here.
Justice Fleeman. Justice Hinton. Here. Justice Hepler. Here. Justice Jackson. Here. Justice Nelson.
Here.
Justice Norval.
Here.
Justice White.
Here.
We'll go ahead and move into the new business. Last time we met was last Friday, and hopefully there wouldn't be a lot of changes between Friday and Monday, but there has been. And even though I monitored the CDC as well as the Arkansas Department of Health websites, and which was, after reading those reports, it looked like everything was more than under control, and that there probably wouldn't be a subsequent meeting anytime soon. But then the governor has called off schools for the state, so that was a game changer. That's going to cause some need for us to at least address it. I also had another phone call late Sunday afternoon from a physician that wasn't able to get all the material for that was needed for their PPEs, mainly the N45, I believe is the name of that respirator type mask to handle those that are suspected with the coronavirus. So that kind of set me in motion to be active in something that I'd been considering for a week. And I was, in that consideration, I was talking with Wayne Reynolds of the Office of Emergency Services of what would we do if we do run low on some of our PPE equipment or anything else that's related with it. And the answer was to issue a proclamation over emergency and disaster with the county, and that would open up our ability to be eligible to draw from ADEM's supplies. And so that's what I did this morning to make sure that we could, our first responders, our physicians, clinics, hospitals, health department, and other healthcare workers would have the equipment that they would need to continue to treat the public. So that proclamation was signed this morning, and I also called there. You can make a verbal declaration. I spoke with Judge Quillis in Crittenden County Saturday afternoon. He had sent me a text and said that he was going to do this and the reason why. And so this is not a surprise for that proclamation to be issued at all. And that is the only reason it was issued, is to make sure that the supply lines were open after the traditional vendors were tapped out. So I did want to bring you up to date on what was done and why it was done. And another reason that I wanted to meet with you today is to come up with some orderly fashion that we could continue to conduct the county's business as usual. And by that I mean pay bills, make deposits, collect taxes, assess assets, and the normal, issuing marriage license and all that sort of thing, the normal course of business. And with that, I'm suggesting that we come up with a way where we just limit the amount of people. In fact, it's a little ironic. Limit the large amount of people in small spaces. So,
Bingo.
and if we could do that, if we could limit, that by 10, 20%, 25%, that would be good. If we could cut it in half, that would be better. Of course, ideally, if we were 100% online, well then, theoretically, we may be able to reduce it by 100%. But I think this should serve as a wake-up call that we be more aggressive in getting everything online that we can, and have in the future maybe some cloud-based vehicle to where we could operate county government and not be here. So I checked, I spent Sunday afternoon, in fact I went to every county's website that had a website and was gathering information for what they were doing. I only really ran into two that had made big changes, and that was Pulaski and Jefferson. And even Jefferson just limited theirs to Friday and Monday, and that was about their court business as well as circuit courts. I've been in touch with Judge Wilson. Is Judge Wilson here? He said he was going to make it. He is coming from Harrisburg right now, but the circuit court is going to take care of their own area. And I spoke with Justice White about this as well. And they have been regularly meeting and talking about how they were going to go about that. They've got some special issues. I spoke with Judge Ritchie. He'd called this morning about some issues they had Wednesday that they need to carry out. So the bailiffs have the keys to the courtroom building, and so they will be on their own, and Judge Wilson will be their spokesperson if anyone has any questions. And as far as the rest of it, and as the collectors here, I believe most of your offices can be done online. Is that correct, or is there a need?
Everything in our office can be done online.
And then the assessor's office, Harley.
Yeah.
Tell me how much access to the public will you need? Complete access, or?
Only time we need it is if they have a new vehicle, we have to have the papers on it. Other than that, they can call on the phone. We've got an online thing. We've tried it and it hasn't worked right, and we're going to be talking about that in the finance, switching something.
So we can ask the public to
Telephone.
call you first.
Call before coming, and we can do it. We can fax it to them. We can email it to them. We can do anything like that. If they'll call us, we can assess over the line.
And keep in mind, we're not going to be locking the doors or anything. We're just going to try to make it known to the public that it's not necessary in most all cases to come to the courthouse. Those are our two probably biggest reasons people come to the courthouse. Ms. Curry, how much public access do you require?
Probably 85%, because the attorneys can't file the new case other than in person and pay the filing fee, nor can anyone come and get a marriage license. They have to be there in person. The law requires that. We've got an election coming up for Leachville, so somebody will have to have access to those people.
Well, that's understandable. So we're certainly not going to try to slow your office down. I spoke with the road department, the landfill. All of those members of those departments are contained in a vehicle, and so they're not meeting the public. I don't think that that's applicable here, but that is what I want to bring forward, and I do think that it's time we look at probably upgrading our website. Stephen and I have been talking about that for probably a year, And after reviewing the other websites this weekend from the counties, I think this probably gives need to it. And at some point, we'll have a committee meeting and we'll have that information kind of put together.
Judge, what about the distribution of paychecks to employees? I'm not familiar with how that's done. Does that require them coming to the courthouse or anything?
Kelly, would you help on that?
Some employees do pick their time sheets up, but mainly it's a representative from each department that's coming to get it.
So it's
someone from
normally
the-
just one person?
Mhm.
Because it's important that they get it on time, I think.
I do too. I do too. And I think it's important because of limiting the access from the, or the amount of public that comes to the courthouse. And that goes along with the CDC and the Arkansas Department of Health's recommendation, as well as limiting, I think they call it social distancing now, eliminating the handshakes and the hugs. I think we ought to very much try to heed those guidelines, but I don't think there's any reason in locking the doors or going too much extremes, especially at this time. You know, like I said, after reviewing their websites and looking at the numbers, but then again, you go to social media or you go to one of our major networks to get the news, and you get a different kind of a feel. But you have to keep in mind that those folks, what drives their reporting and their style and their and the content is advertising and revenues. And so I think what they are calling for, what they are trying to communicate is not exactly what the matter at hand. But I did want to know, I want to know y'all's input. We had talked about the emergency committee possibly convening this week, and I don't have that list in front of me.
It's there in
It's
front
right
of
here,
the book.
look.
Yeah.
Who is the chairman of each?
Who is the chairman of that committee?
Justice Nelson.
Justice Nelson. Do you have anything you'd like to add here, or?
Judge, I'm very proud of what you've done thus far. I think you've certainly been upfront with trying to help the county and the people in it, so I'm pleased with what you've done.
Thank you. You know, we don't have any confirmed cases. In fact, JT and I was talking this morning. He went to the doctor about 2 weeks ago was it 2 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, thinking he had the flu. He tested negative for it and positive for strep. He's had strep before, but he's never been laid up in bed for 5 days. And so he's thinking, we're just kind of talking, he might have had it. So those, you know, whether it's out here or not, we don't know, and we may not ever know. But I'm sure we're going to get some cases here, but I'm sure we're going to handle it.
Are there any special precautions as far as like cleaning the courtroom after, since they're going to kind of continue with the...
And you know, Joyce gave me one of the big boxes of the Clorox things that you... So we have been polishing the doorknobs pretty regularly. We're doing everything that we can to make sure that we don't just continually to move germs from one spot to another. And I have found out today that it's really hard not to touch your face. Or how many times, and the more you think about it, the more your nose itches or your eyes need rubbing. And so I try not to think about it, but I think the county's in good shape. I think everything we've done so far has been called for, and I think limiting the access to the public would be beneficial to both the public and the employees with the county. One other thing I did want to mention, and this may be the most important reason that we're here, is to be sympathetic with those people that have children at home that are now going to be without care because they're going to be moved from school to home. And my suggestion, and I will take the Quorum Corp's decision here, but my suggestion would be if there is an employee that has children that it's going to affect them, if they'll go to their department head and then the department head finds some way to mitigate their, the strain this is put on their lifestyle, well, then they ought to be able to find a way with this court's blessing to make it to where they can all get through it. Just like in my office in Blytheville, my private office, we've got 2 children up there right now. 2 different employees, and they're going to be there all day. And so at some point, I think they'll find someone that will be able to take over those responsibilities at home. But until then, I told them to bring them to work. I don't know if that would work in every office or not, or if maybe if that person would need to be given, the ability to go home and take care of those kids. And I don't know how long we'll be doing this, but we know we got this week and we got next week.
Well, everybody should be prepared for next week, because next week's spring break.
Right.
So, another thing that, you mentioned Crittenden County earlier. Crittenden County is actually checking people's temperature when they come in the courthouse. And if they've got a temperature, they're denying them access.
Is that Crittenden or Craighead?
Crittenden.
Crittenden?
Craighead may be doing as well. I know Crittenden's doing it.
Yeah.
Actually, the declaration we passed, or the
Ordinance we
ordinance
passed.
we passed last week, I think it sort of covers the thing with the children. It allows them, if they go to their department director to discuss it with them, they can take their time, and it may go into a negative balance. We're not giving them that 14 days for no one being infected, but they would be able to go into a negative balance and make it up by not giving some time for a little while.
I think that's a good thing.
You know, that was
It was in
one
that
of the
ordinance.
points we looked at in that ordinance.
Is there anything else from the Quorum Court that we need to address here or be more proactive on?
On the east room of the child care center out there, it's ideal for, you're talking about people bringing children to the courthouse.
Right.
It's ideal for 3 or 4 children in there, in a secret office for the parents to observe them if they wish. Something you might want to think about or see.
Is that the Dixon building?
Yes.
That would be an ideal place. I'm glad you brought that up. We'll
But
see if we
it
can.
has the little tiny commodes and things for children. Unless they remove them, they're still there. And
Well, I'll send
bathrooms and everything.
I'll send a message to all the departments, and if they'll assess their employees and get if there is that need, to get a number, and we'll see if we can't open that up. I think that's ideal, because that was built for a daycare.
I think it would be ideal if you needed it, if the number of children got to a point where you needed a place to put them, instead of having them in the offices where they would probably get more contact with the public.
That's true.
Put them
Exactly.
in that room with an RN or something, or LPN, or just a healthcare worker to take care of them.
Very good idea. I'll look into that today. But outside of that, I think that I think everything right now has been appropriate.
I think you've got the full confidence of the court and the judgment of our elected officials and department heads to mitigate their personal spaces and circumstances and personnel. I don't think there's one of us that would disagree with their decisions.
Well, we'll move forward in that and making sure that those are the 2 things. We lower the amount of traffic into the county offices, and then we address the issue with the children being displaced from school.
I was asked specifically about the circuit clerk's office. Are they going to take any special precautions over there?
We have a representative over there.
Oh, yes.
We are cleaning, we are wiping down doorknobs, we have put up a sign to ask people not to lean over the counter, not to, personal space. We are wiping down the counters extremely often after people coming in, after handling papers, sanitizing. We are taking extra precautions because we do handle and deal with the public quite often. We are taking every precaution that we possibly can.
So your office really, you're going to have the same number of traffic from the public.
Right, right, but we are doing all we can to wash our hands, wipe the counter down, asking people to keep as much of a distance as they can, wiping the door down, keeping the public computers disinfected. We're doing all we can to try to keep them well and us.
There's supposed to be a news conference at 3 or 3:30, I can't remember, the president's coming on, and he's talking about, I mean, I don't know, I've just heard rumors, but he's talking about shutting pretty much everything down.
Just a recommendation, and something we might start to look at, and we probably should have been doing this in the past. Might look at putting in glass partitions so that, like in their office, the 6 feet is a good thing if you can conduct it. The problem is, a lot of times when you're going to hand somebody paperwork, you gotta be closer than that. But if you put in a glass partition where they can slide something under to them, you're not as likely to get the contact that they're talking about, and that is droplets. Somebody sneezes, the glass will stop it.
Yeah.
We can certainly keep Lysol when no one's in the office, go out there and spray it. But you might look at that for, like, especially Janice's office and Circuit Clerk's office, Susan's office, and Hartman's. These folks are going to be the ones that have the most public coming into their office, and it's probably something we should look at incorporating when we come back to the new courthouse for many reasons other than this, safety issues.
Well, or transmitting the flu or a cold,
Exactly.
those are just as pertinent as what we're talking about right now in the majority of cases.
It might be something we might anticipate doing in case this does get worse, so that we could look at the possibility of adding that in where we're at.
And our most vulnerable sector of our population is dealt with the Senior Citizens Center, and Amanda and I have spoken probably every day. She is probably handling the most important group. Would you give us an update on everything that you've got putting in place?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Like I said, me and him talk every day. I'm blowing his phone up. We have 2 really demographics that we deal with, and it's with the older population versus home delivery and congregate meals. The action we're going to take with the home delivery is they're used to getting a hot meal every day. That means the driver actually goes in and out that home, how many meals is on his route. It could be anywhere from 5 to 17 meals. So if he would get something on house number 2, he could wipe out 17 people down the road. So what we're going to do, we're going to limit how many times the driver actually goes in the home by preparing frozen meals. They'll get a 7-pack meal. We'll only go into the home 1 time a week. That'll be on a Monday. We won't see that client again until the next Monday. We're also providing them with an emergency phone number to call us. And we're going to have a call center that we're going to call them every other day just to check on them, see how they're doing. Some of these people have no family and they're home and they're alone. And they're used to seeing the driver because it gives them something to look forward to. Well, that isolation will really take a toll on some of them's health. We have 3 that's on hospice. We have 2 that's taking chemo. They don't need to be exposed to anyone. So we're going to limit that exposure with just 1 time a week. Then it comes to the congregate. Everybody likes to come in, socialize, and have a meal. After tomorrow, we will be closed for 2 weeks. On April the 6th, we're going to open back up with a grab-and-go meal. This meal will be prepackaged. There's 7 meals in a pack. They'll just pull up to our door. We'll have them sign for them. We'll put them in their car, and they'll be gone for a week. They'll have the same kind of meal that the home delivery has. We've got only a few signed up so far. Like the judge said, this is changing every week for us. We don't know if more will come online with those frozen meals, but this is a way to keep the congregate people engaged with us. For the people that we pick up on the bus route that don't drive in, we are going to have that delivered to their home. They'll get those meals. They'll be the same way. We've got them an emergency phone number. If they need us, we'll be there. We still are going to have to transport seniors to doctor's appointments, maybe to go get groceries. I know Barb has been online. She's tried to get gloves and masks for our drivers. we are unable to obtain them. They're on back order. So if anybody has any that y'all could slide our way, we would deeply appreciate it.
The whole package of gloves.
Thank you, sir.
And through this proclamation, you should be taken care of.
Okay, yeah. But we're just gonna limit those. This limits the exposure for the congregate and for the home delivery. The reason it's gonna take us 2 weeks to roll this out is because we don't keep a lot of food at the senior center. We only cook it a week at a time, and we only order for how many we have. It'll take us 2 weeks to build this food up so we can prepackage 7 meals at a time. So when it's all rolls out, we don't know how long this will take. This might take us 8 weeks. So this will be, a project, might go through the summer. But I hope that I could count on each of y'all. If y'all gave us a phone call and say, hey, do I need to stand by a car and hand out meals? I would hope I would get your support that you could do that. I've had several phone calls this morning, Terry Brassfield being one of them. She's volunteered her church to come and help us, get the meals out, whether they have to do a delivery route or they'll do the grab and go with the congregate. I would ask if y'all have any kind of ideal that would help me. Pick the phone up and please call me. I'll take all ideals from anybody that can help us.
Any questions for the senior citizens?
Amanda, are y'all open this week?
We're only going to be open today and tomorrow because that's where we had our meals bought up to.
Mm-hmm.
We want to utilize what all we have. But we'll get a truck tomorrow and we're going to get emergency meals. The problem with those are they're being limited by GFS. We'll only get 100. And they told us they could be on back order. So we cannot depend on those meals. So we'll have to order the normal food and just be packaging it in the center and sending it out frozen.
So the Manila Center, it's definitely going to be closed?
It will be closed. Yeah, we have gotten from the Arkansas Health Department and the CDC that the seniors are the biggest demographics that it's
Right.
targeting. All it would take is one person and the whole center would be gone.
Yep.
And like the workers in the center, like there's Whitney at Manila, there's Felicia and Monette, they are going to do the grab and go also. Those meals will be made available. If the senior wants to pull up and say, hey, I thought about it, I didn't need to grab and go, but now, the government is saying I need to stay in the house and be quarantined, we'll get them on that meal route. We'll get it to their door, that they don't have to come out.
GFS is a private vendor too, that just delivers the meal.
Yeah,
I mean, they
Gordon
purchase
Pictures.
the meals from it, so.
And those meals, they have told us that they're, they're going to give us 100, but they can't promise us any more than that. And those are the meals that during the ice storm, people were given. You have 5 days in there. You don't have to have heat to eat it. There's like peanut butter, there's tuna fish, there's canned chicken. You can eat from that box for 5 days. We're going to try to get those out first, only to the home delivery, because that's who we got to worry about first. And then the seniors with the congregates, they'll come online April the 6th, and they'll have a meal for every day. It will be frozen. It looks just like a little lean cuisine that they can put in the microwave.
We're using this word emergency a lot, but the idea behind all of it is if we can just reduce the amount of people coming together in a small space, then we are making our county more healthy. And that's all we're trying to do. We're going to continue to provide all the services that we do. We're just, we want to make it a healthier situation. And Wayne Reynolds, we talked this weekend. He's been out of town, but we've talked on the phone. And we're going to open up the file on this particular issue that we've got before us right now. And he will be checking with the hospitals, the health departments, the clinics, healthcare, all the healthcare workers, make sure that they have all of the equipment that they need, all the supplies that they need, anything that's that touches this the coronavirus. Have you learned anything since we talked this morning, or do you have anything to add to it?
No, sir, I don't. No. There's a conference call this afternoon that I'll be getting some more information.
But we should have the supplies that we're needing, especially the clinic that called. You're guessing in 24 hours?
I cannot say to that.
Okay.
I'll do
Well,
my
that's
best, but-
what we're hoping to get, is we're hoping to make sure everyone has all the supplies that they need within 24 hours. Sheriff, I see you've got a file open. Do you have something that you can add to this?
Well, I mean, you know, we're gonna be probably going a little farther than what we talked about Friday as far as people, officers bringing in arrestees into the jail. Washington County has sent their protocol to Jamie Cook, the Secretary of the Arkansas Department of Public Safety. They issued that out to all of us today. We're probably gonna be tweaking ours a little by theirs. Big changes would be, they set up a screening in the silent port area to take care of that. And the first thing they do is check the temperature of the person and the officer, which is a little different from what we talked about Friday. We didn't talk about taking the temperature of the officer, but I think we're looking into some devices where you don't have to actually touch the person, maybe electronically, you can check the temperature. But the mayor, all the mayors need to be aware of that. All the officers are probably going to get checked on the temperature, and if they have a fever of 100 degrees or more, then we're going to turn them away to go to the hospital and be checked. If they bring a person in there that has a fever 100 or more, or answers yes to 2 of those questions on the screening questions, then that officer will be required to take that person to the hospital and get cleared before we can accept them. We're not going to be stopping people on traffic stops for minor offenses like tag light out, equipment headlight out, or something like that right now. We're not going to enforce those things at this time until this is over. So it reduces our contact with the people. We are going to take calls. We listened to had a 2-hour conference call this morning with the feds. People all over the country, sheriffs and police chiefs, asked questions. And there's not enough of the protective personal PPE to go around for everybody. They're in the process of trying to get that. There's not enough test kits, as we already know that. They asked about officers on traffic stops putting the PPE on a normal traffic stop. We're not going to do that. They don't recommend doing that right there unless they have a reason to do that or make physical contact with that person. So we're trying to get all of our people, get the information out to all of our folks so they do these things right, to try to limit the COVID-19 spreading throughout our communities, and especially in our jail population. So it's things are coming out every day. I think you've got a conference call at 2 p.m. with the county judges and the AAC. I'll probably have another one with the feds tomorrow. I know we have one tomorrow afternoon with the AAC and the sheriffs. So it looks like we're going to have daily conference calls addressing these issues. Any questions of me?
Anybody got a question for the sheriff? We'll see, we got the Mayor Blythe here. Do you have any news that could be added to this?
Just that I stepped out to grab the call, but Ritter is establishing or helping us to set up our call center. We've been in touch again on the radio this morning, talking and just giving ideas about what it is that reminding people of the contact with other people, and to look in on our elderly, to look in also on the seniors that we have, on our seniors, and also to provide information about what the schools are doing as far as meals for the children, for those who are underserved that can't, that are going to be missing meals. So it's all about right now just getting this information out. Now we have limited contact, in our municipal buildings. We've only got one location to enter right now into our buildings, so that it can be limited contact. We're modifying procedures with our water and wastewater companies so that if people need new services or just want to pay their bills, just new ways of how that they're going to do that, which will also limit contact to our employees. And we're working along with our public works just and our law enforcement to make sure that we have the people that we're going to have contact with, that our people are protected. And as well as y'all were working on, y'all passed something here just last week. Our HR and law enforcement are looking at ways of me presenting something to my city council or to the city council on ways of taking care of leave time for our employees as well.
Mayor, Ron?
Well, we've had some concerns, and like I said to you a couple of times yesterday or 3 times, a lot of them don't understand, they're letting the kids out tomorrow, won't have school for 2 weeks. Well, baseball's coming up. Well, I've had some flack that they think they should be able to practice ball and go on with that, and I've stopped all of that, and I've caught some flack on that. How is Blythe going to let them use their ballparks and continue Little League or anything like that, or have you had that come up yet? Or?
No, we have not. As far as those type of services, we'll be looking at those, because if the school is already looking at the idea of reducing physical contact, then in my opinion is that that should be something that we should be trying to do, is to suspend any of those activities.
See, I've suspended them,
yeah.
And like I say, I've caught some flack on it, but the surrounding areas, Caraway, Monette, Lake City, all of them, I hadn't heard from Wayne yet. I told him I'd talk to him after a while, but everybody's postponing practices until the 30th and then evaluate it after the 30th. And like I said, we closed our city hall, only you can pay bills through the window. And the lady from the state for the licensing and everything, I didn't know if it was going to be open Thursday for them to get their license and, like I say, assess the property. And I said, that's probably going to be closed.
I was going to mention about the baseball. So yes, Blythe is following the same procedure. They can postpone all practice until the 30th, and then they'll reevaluate it. And we did get a notice this morning from the Armorell School District that said all practice, school or just other stuff wouldn't be allowed in the gym, but they're canceling everything.
Well, we got a wrestling match coming up, I think the 25th, and usually they might have 100 to 150 people there at the gym, our old gym. And she asked me what was going to happen. I said, well, I'd say you might probably have to postpone that, because she said, what did I tell the man? I said, well, we'll make it postpone it, because you put that many people in, it could be more than that. We've always had a pretty good turnout for that. When you put a bunch of people in there, I don't want to take the liability issue and say, well, the mayor said go ahead and do that. And then they come back on me and say, well, you allowed it, you should have done that. So
the CDC did change the recommendations on close contact gathering to 50 or more today.
Yeah.
So it was at 200 to 250, so
yeah.
Now it's very, very limited now.
Did they also change from 5 to 6 feet that doesn't work anymore?
No.
I thought I heard that on the news this morning.
Was it CDC though?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
okay.
It was just California, I guess.
Do you know how many city halls are shut down in the county?
I do not. Do we know anything about the number of city halls?
I know Monette's is only paying through the window. Caraway's only paying through the window. Now, that's not in our county, but Lake City's paying through the window. They're shutting all baseball stuff down. And I went on what they all had meetings yesterday, and I'm going on what they're doing. And I've got some flack on it. I'm doing what everybody else is doing for precaution and everything.
Judge, I got a comment. All right. The Arkansas Activities Association, they put out a press release a few days ago. They've suspended all AAA, or the Arkansas Activities Association suspended all spring sports and activities through March the 30th, and they'll reevaluate. Yeah. So there's your answer right there.
Yeah, well, that's what all of them said yesterday, but, there's nothing, I'm following what everybody else is following.
Dr. Willis, Is there anything you can add to this? Update us on what you have
I think you've
experienced?
addressed everything. I really appreciate your promptness, addressing our issues with the PPE, personal protective equipment. All of our clinics in the county are having trouble securing it. The hospital system is having trouble securing it. Our distributor was mandated to only supply the larger hospital systems. And prior to that, they had a recall on all Cardinal hospital gowns, the ones we use for surgery. So they were all recalled because they didn't meet sterilization according to the FDA. So they pulled all those gowns, and that created a shortage before this hit. So our frustration for us, all of the docs that I've talked to, is trying to secure the PPE so that we can screen the patients when they come in. Right now, we're sitting there ready. It's like a quiet before the storm. When we look at the other countries and where they were at this point and where we are at this point, we're kind of holding our breath. And I would rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. I don't like getting caught behind the 8 ball. And I felt like that's where we were coming to, and I'm glad I came to this meeting because I see that we're not going to be there. So just supplying us in the hospital system with the PPE, we'll be most grateful for that. And the social distancing, that being stressed, that's what stops an epidemic. That's what will keep us from being like Italy is now, if we can just make people stay home. So.
And Mr. Reynolds has told me that as soon as he gets the green light from ADEM, he will travel to Little Rock and pick those materials up himself. And if you will be in contact with her clinic on exactly what they need.
I talked to her this morning.
Okay. So those needs will be met, and I think we can do those rather quickly.
So this proclamation basically opens up the pipeline for medical services, is that right?
For supplies. Through ADEM, and would it also go through FEMA?
Not yet. It's still at state level.
So we are confident that we can pick everything up that we need, and we will have them back here. And Wayne will also be in contact with the hospitals and all the healthcare providers on at least a weekly basis to make sure that that you have everything you need.
We appreciate that.
Is there any other comment that someone would like to bring to the table, or any information that we haven't gotten yet? Have I missed anybody?
Just talking about the police officers having a deal to scan to check their temperature. You said something about that. Did I misunderstand that?
I did.
Okay. Where did you get that? Are y'all going to supply that, or do we?
We will check it when they come into Sallyport. It's recommended that each police department have them checked at the start of the shift and end of the shift. So you need to know where your officers are before they go to work.
Yeah. That's what.
Justice Nelson, if I don't really foresee the entire Quorum Court convening in the future unless there's an issue that would require an ordinance. So if you will, I can pass this off to you and the emergency committee possibly meet this week just to check back up on what we've talked about today and set some date in the future and maybe a weekly meeting, whatever you think is necessary until we see this thing through. And hopefully in 60 days, 30, 60, 90 days, this will be behind us.
Or sooner.
I think that's everything that I had that I wanted to talk about. But if there's anything else, we'll address that now. Otherwise,
I do want to remind everybody, Blytheville Schools is feeding all kids 0 to 18. They'll start at the parks tomorrow. If you'll get on their Facebook page, it's just a grab-and-go meal. It's breakfast and lunch, and we'll do that through the week. So, and it was successful today. So,
the IC is also doing that, starting at 11:30 till 12:15. passing out lunches at Leachville, across the street from my store, for the kids that show up, and then Monette and Black Oak is doing that.
And ours is
Sack lunches.
10:30 to 1, I believe, 10:30 to 1.
And so I'll say it again, we'll try not to have this many people in this small of a space to talk about not doing this. So we'll go to committee meetings instead of quorum court meetings, and we'll also put it out to the public that rather than attend our quorum court meetings, which will be next Tuesday night, a week from tomorrow, that we'll try to, I mean, we'll be open to the public, but they can get all of that through, they get the video and the audio through the website. And Stephen is, we're trying to be very vigilant on that sort of communication, and we'll also, we can do that through our media, social media, through Facebook. With the county's got one, and if anyone needs to put something in there that needs to be known to the public, we can communicate there or the other websites. So we don't have to, we can exchange information, but we don't have to all be sitting in the same room in order to do it. Well, go ahead.
We've got another.
I'm crashing your party.
Yes, come on in. The Red Cross, and what, can you add something to this, or tell us what you know?
No, I don't want to do that. Y'all got that under control. I do want, I know you've got a captive audience, and so I was going to take advantage of it. Our blood donations, critically low. So we have blood drives being canceled across the country, and which is making it very tough for us to keep blood on the shelves. And I'm talking thousands and thousands of units that we're losing. So if you can give blood, we will have a community drive in Gosnell Thursday at the community center. And I'm trying to get another one somewhere here in Blytheville where we can have another one to try to make up some of our loss. But just because, I mean, we're all trying to keep our safe distance, we still have people in the hospital who are needing surgeries. We've got cancer patients who need their blood, and that don't stop. So we can't stop trying to get people to give, and we are taking every precaution in making it a very, very safe experience for our donors. So I just wanted to plug that.
I've got a question though. If in absence of a drive, like you're talking about going to Gospel, is there a place that someone?
There is a big site in Jonesboro.
Right behind Walmart.
Yeah.
Not the
On
Walmart
Grant
on
Street.
bypass, Walmart. Okay. I donated week before last. How often can you donate?
Every 56 days.
Okay.
So.
It doesn't hurt?
We get a lot of blood from school systems. We do tons of blood drives in school systems, and with schools shutting down, we're losing those. With companies doing remote work, we're losing those drives. So it is a nationwide problem. And so if you can give, please, I know it ain't the most pleasant experience in the world, but you're saving a life, so.
And you get a cookie and.
You get a cookie and some juice.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well,
Thank
we'll see
you.
if we can't make that public. And if there's not any other comments, then I'll.
Move to adjourn?
Judge,
Oh,
I just want to say too that at this, again, we will still be having our city council meeting tomorrow. The city of Blytheville will be having its city council meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
And I would add one more thing is, we put all these things in places, we should have a healthier county.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about. So there's no fears to be had here. There's just changing up in our lives that would keep us all healthy. All right, with that said, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. We've got a finance meeting.